Welcome back to the GenTwenty Podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina, and today we're talking about failing faster, a productivity method.
Yeah, so failing faster is when you're essentially embracing failure and you're acknowledging that something may have gone wrong, but you're just moving forward more quickly instead of dwelling on that.
Yeah, it's basically figuring out faster where you need to pivot, and you know that we love a good pivot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of times I think when we quote unquote fail, I'm just going to say fail, like when things don't go the way that we wanted them to, I think that it's really easy for us to get stuck on it and see it as like a personality trait or, something that's going to define us for the rest of our lives. But that's really not what we should see failure as, because we essentially just need to get over ourselves, right? I mean, I feel like a lot of times when I feel really stuck with something, it's not going the way I wanted it to. Like sometimes I have to change my mind and change my method about the way that I'm approaching that thing to actually see the change that I want to see and like find the outcome that I want to find. And it's scary to put yourself out there, and that's like part of what failure is, because you might like when you fail, you might be like, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or like I didn't make the cut, or any number of things. But really failure is part of the process to achieving the goals that you want to achieve. And now a word from our sponsor. Do you ever feel like you're stuck on the island of misfit careers? Like everyone around you seems to have their career together, but here you are in a soul-sucking job for what feels like the 100th time. Why is it so hard to find work that makes you happy? My friend, you are not alone in feeling this way. Let me introduce you to Serena and Get Me Out of This Job. Get Me Out of This Job is a career coaching program that helps you find confidence and clarity in the next steps of your career. Serena helps you build a career around your life instead of feeling like you have to build your life around your career. No more diving into jobs that aren't the right fit for you anymore. No more living on the Isle of Misfit Careers. And the best part? Mention GenTwenty and get 10% off your coaching package. Head to getmeoutofthisjob.co to learn more or follow her on Instagram at getmeoutofthisjob.
Yeah, I love that you say change my mind, change my method, because I think, at least for me, I notice when I'm avoiding something, it's because I'm afraid I'm going to fail at it because I don't know how to do it. And when I have that breakthrough or whatever, I think, oh, well, let me just do a little more research of ways I can do something, or think about why am I so afraid to fail. Like, I think we should accept and get excited about failing. Like it's literally one of the steps to forward momentum and growth is things didn't always work. And
yeah, you kind of want to see failure because it's really just information gathering.
yeah,
Like it's knowing that, okay, this isn't working. So what can we try next? What else can we change? Like, I think that we take failure like too personally.
oh, definitely. And I think too that because we live our lives online now with all of the social media, like Nicole and I run essentially 3 to 4
A lot,
businesses
many.
online. We have to show up every day, and it's really hard because things like I'll post on Instagram and it won't get the reaction I'm hoping for, or the response, or the engagement. And it's my first thought is, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? But really it's just like, all right, today wasn't that day. Like people weren't looking for that today. That's okay. But if we let ourselves fail faster, we can get there sooner with this information we're collecting.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess here, like a really good example that we can talk about is one of our businesses, which is the Capsule Collab, which is our product-based business, which is both of our first foray into anything product-based or e-commerce. So the whole operation we embraced from like a very big like learning standpoint. But it also is essentially, I don't want to call it just a hobby, but it's really a passion project.
Yeah, it's
For
a passion project.
Passion business.
Definitely. And I have to give you credit, Nicole, because before we started the business, or as we were starting it, I had so much fear of like letting you down or failing. And you, every time I would kind of express that, you were just like, it's a fact-finding mission. It's going to be okay. Let's try it. And I was like, oh man. So I've learned to embrace failing so much just in working with you. Because guys, it's fun to fail. We fail together and we just have a laugh.
Yeah, and
This is
it's really interesting because it's like a science experiment, right? Like we're just like, okay, we're gonna try this, and then we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, full disclosure, this is the third time we've tried to record this episode because
Yeah, we kept
technology is hard.
having issues, and as you probably heard at the beginning, things did not go as smoothly as we would have hoped. But it's fine.
It's
We're
okay.
still kicking. We're doing our best. You know.
And I think that's something that is an important part of failing faster is letting go of this idea of perfect.
Mhm.
So I've been trying to embrace that with my Instagram. I don't proofread, right? So there's going to be typos, there's going to be weird paragraphs, but because we have to produce so much content to be seen online, I'm going to cut corners in places where it's okay to cut corners, which means I don't proofread my Instagram captions. And so that I know Nicole's face. But I went from being able to write one Instagram caption a day to being able to write 20 because I stopped nitpicking every single word and space and comma. And so that's important for my novel because it's longer lasting, has more of an evergreen physical presence. But with Instagram, I had to embrace the done is better than perfect because I don't have enough time. I don't have enough hours in the day to do everything perfectly. And it's not interesting. We're humans, we're not perfect, so flaws are good.
Yeah, we're not machines. We're not meant to be producing content 24/7, even though that's what a lot of people will tell you to do
Yeah.
for your business. It's just exhausting. I can't run my life or my business that way, and I don't think anyone else should either,
Mm-mm.
personally. And so this whole idea of failing faster is I had written this line ages ago. I think I started writing this blog post in like 2017 and it's never been published. So just know that on projects that have been years in the making, I'm right there with you. But I said that perfectionism is a performance based toxicity that is motivated by the fear of failure. And I think that perfect doesn't exist. And that's something that we need to embrace. And we talk a lot about like a growth mindset. But the idea of perfect isn't rooted in abundance, it comes from scarcity because it's just the idea of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there is no one perfect thing.
Right. Perfect is an arbitrary word, kind of like enough. Like, oh, I'm not good
Mhm.
enough. What does enough mean? Oh, this isn't perfect. What does perfect mean?
Yeah.
And I think if we learn to accept those definitions of oh, perfect doesn't exist, then it's easier to embrace failure because you're just like, well, it wasn't going to be perfect anyway. Here we go.
And now a word from our sponsor, Acquainted Wedding Productions. Your wedding is one of the most important days of your life, but in the blink of an eye, it's over. 94% of couples who didn't hire a wedding videographer say they regretted it. Your wedding video allows you to relive your big day, listen to your vows, and see your loved ones in motion. Acquainted Wedding Productions specializes in wedding videography and event live streaming. Based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Acquainted Weddings works with couples up and down the East Coast to capture their big day. Visit www.acquaintedweddings.com to find out more. Mention GenTwenty in your inquiry to receive 20% off any video or live streaming package. Yeah, because perfect isn't an end goal. It's not something you're trying to get to. Like, it's just like everything is a work in progress, everything is a learning experience. And just, I think something you learn, especially when you, I guess, get to like a certain place in your career, or you're running your own business, is that like the goalpost is always moving.
Yeah.
And so whenever you think that you got into somewhere that you might have wanted to be before, that's like when by the time you get there, you're already thinking about the next place you're going to go.
Yeah. So I think in the process of failing, we have to learn to slow down a little bit and look back at where we've come because it makes failing feel a little bit less painful because it's like, okay, yeah, this business or this novel or this thing didn't work, but look at all that I've done to get here. It's like think about a staircase. Like you have to get to the end of the step and rise up before there was a I don't know, there was a good metaphor going there. But if you picture it like when you finish your step, you go up. It's not that you go backwards. It's just like, oh, this didn't work out. We keep going up.
Mhm. Exactly. Like it's just an information gathering mission. And I think, I'm not sure when you're going to hear this episode this season, but we have a really exciting episode coming up with a woman named Carly, and she's a web designer. And in that episode, she talked about how she started her first business. That when she said it, she was like, "Yeah, that failed. It just didn't do well." And
I loved talking to her about that. I was just
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, tell me more.
it's such a good episode. It's so fascinating to hear where she just openly was embracing, like, yeah, it just failed. Which I feel like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but like probably when you're working on something, you don't want to admit that. But when you kind of move forward in your life, it's easier to see how it's just becoming a stepping stone to where you're like meant to go.
Yeah, I have an example of that myself. I was running a food blog website. There's many iterations of it, but it was a food related website. And I remember feeling really upset that I just had decided to close it. And I think Nicole, I think you were the one who said, "Well, it's just not serving you anymore." And you got everything out of it that you could get out of it, and that made it easier to close. But for a long time I wouldn't talk about it because I felt like, oh, I failed and I can't admit that it didn't work. And I was just like, it's okay, it didn't work, let's try
Yeah.
again.
It's just like an idea that you had that you were passionate about at the time that you started it. But, like you evolved, like you wanted to
Mhm.
do different things. Like now you're doing writing coaching, which isn't related to that at all. So all that would be doing is taking away from what you want to be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be a hard decision to make. It's really hard to look at yourself almost like objectively and be like, okay, what needs to go? Because like you're so close to it that you don't necessarily want it to go, but is it serving you? You know?
Yeah, is it serving you? Ask yourself that every day. Is this serving me? can
Mm-hmm.
i can I make changes? And like, listen, if Ross could work on the pivot with that couch and then still decide to cut it in half and take it back to the couch store, like, you can ask yourself, is this serving me and can I pivot?
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I think we just need to stop thinking of like failure and success as like good and bad words, as in end goals, because it like everything is a work in progress,
Yeah.
and it's all just about learning. And what we really hope that you take away from this is that failure is not a personality trait. It's not a stamp of who you are. You don't get a big award because you won something. Like I remember when I first started GenTwenty way back in like what year was that? 2013.
Hmm.
And over the next several years, like there were several people I knew who were put on these big like 30 under 30 lists and all that kind of stuff. And that was never a goal that I had for myself. But after, I got many, many emails that were offering me to buy myself for thousands of dollars a position on these lists.
Oh, the truth comes out.
Yeah, people pay for that. Like, maybe not everyone, but like a lot of these lists are paid, okay? And that's to
Right, because it's
me,
just
that's a
content.
scam. Yeah, it's a scam. Like it doesn't mean anything. And after like I started thinking about that kind of stuff, I was just like, why, like none of this matters. Like good for you, but like what does that mean
Yeah.
for me? Like nothing.
Yeah, what are you doing in the 30 years of your life that you've crammed in there? And I feel, Nicole and I just turned 30 together differently
Hmm.
in the last like year or two. Man, that's a sentence. But Nicole and I've reached our 30s, and I have done so much with my life, but also nothing in the grand scheme of
Yeah.
things. And
Well,
so,
there's so much looking forward.
yeah. And so I have so much I'm hoping to do ahead of me that I don't want to be recognized just for what I've done in the first 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
I failed a lot in the first 30 years, and it got to me. Look how far it got me. I'm doing great. So, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a, it's all about embracing the failure.
and like let's look at each other for our potential and not what we have and haven't done, you know.
Exactly. And I think in some ways the perfectionism is just us getting in our own way. And if you think about what your roadblocks are, the chances are you are the roadblock.
Mhm. Yeah, more likely than not, I would say. Um It's probably just a mental roadblock too,
Mm-hmm.
to be completely honest. But just as we wrap this episode up, just one thing that I really want to leave you with is a quote that I don't really know where it came from. I might have invented it myself or combined it from other things. I'm not really sure. I don't want to take credit for something that's not fully mine. I don't know. But it is, but what am I compared to mountains? And
Ooh.
that is a quote that I say to myself all the time because mountains have been on this planet for billions of years and they don't give a shit about you. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's
They
true.
don't care if you're succeeding or failing. Like they're still going to be there. And to me, it's just so reassuring because it's like the world goes on and life goes on and your life will keep going on, whether things are going good or bad in this moment. And it's just something that I say to myself a lot because it encourages me to take leaps when I might not otherwise. And I hope that
Dang, that
resonates
was
with
so
some of
good.
you.
We're just going to end on that. Nicole,
Yeah.
thanks so much for enlightening with us, and I'll sing. I guess I'll sing us out.
Go ahead.
Okay, this has been another episode of the GenTwenty Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you will leave us a rating and a review, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.